Hello, my beauties. Hello, hello, hello. It is Coach Viv here. And today, I almost didn't go live, but I'm actually excited to do it. I'm still getting ready. Here we go. I needed some color. I feel much better. Okay. All right. Today, I'm going to share with you, what did I title this video? Okay, definitely bougie on a budget. Let's see. So we're going to talk about how I traveled for 5 months this year. Okay. It was 5 months. It kind of snuck up on me. And if you're new to the channel, I am Viv, and I am a meditation teacher, and I do holistic stress coaching. I'm also an intuitive wrapped up in that, very, very intuitive. And so that's what we're going to talk about. So welcome, welcome, welcome. Hey, Greg, welcome. So yeah, what's my subtitle? Bougie on a budget, budget bougie. What did I put on the thumbnail? Yeah, bougie on budget. I left out the because I was running out of space on my thumbnail, okay? And I think it has a picture of France on it and me smiling while I was traveling. So I'm just going to talk about, there's so many especially now, there are more, which is fabulous, there are more Black travel, not influencers, I'm not really talking about them, but Black women, especially in the space. And there are some, I've seen also some younger Black men talking about, Black people living in Asia. And I mean, we've been, but really before, just the Instagram boom and being able to really see ourselves traveling, it was not, it was happening. But if people didn't know it was happening, it's kind of like, did it really happen? Okay. Have you heard that Zen koan, like if a tree falls in the woods and no one is there a sound? It's like that. Like if, anyway, so we're traveling. And yeah, it was 5 months. I traveled this year from I left at the very end of January. So literally, I think it was the 28th, and I arrived my first country, which we'll talk about more. So starting like counting February, and I came back in July. So I just want to give some tips, okay? And I did this really quickly, but even though we have, my channel is open to all. I'm mostly, I think in this video, especially encouraging women like over 50 who may be reluctant, or you feel like really, because my thing is stress and dealing with stress and anxiety and like spiritual living and holistic living, I'm going to say that this video is especially for those of you who are like, would like to take a break from America, from the States, because of just everything going on now. And if you're watching me, you're a sensitive person, you're a spiritual person. And so if you want to take even maybe a 1 month break, Spirit was telling me, or I would say even like up to 3 months, I'm just going to talk about, again, how you can do it easily, especially if you don't have a big budget. If you have a big budget, then it's kind of no big deal. Though what I think sometimes people who maybe have corporate jobs, who it's not about the money, but they may be very locked into their job and the grind, okay, which is a different thing. I'm not going to talk about that. So who else is here? Say hi. Again, we're talking about for the spiritual person in general, who may feel like they need a break, how they can afford to take a longer vacation, like a month, like I said, up to 3 months or longer. I did 5 months just to kind of get a break, be in a new environment. Okay. So the first thing I wrote is that it's about mindset. And you guys know who watch me regularly that I talk a lot about mindset. So many of you love my affirmations. I was checking what folks were looking up with my channel. And if you do Yoga Bliss Dance, which is my current name, and it's been the name of the channel, the first thing that pops up is affirmations. So you love the affirmations, and the affirmations are a way to work with mindset. So again, if you feel like you don't have a lot of money, and how do you take a long vacation or a sabbatical? I'm going to like I said, focus on the budget part. So first you have to believe it's possible. So I was listening to some wonderful people like Stephanie Perry, Rashida Dow, Peaky Girl Travels the World. They talk solely about um, Black women expatting, immigrating, or taking a sabbatical, right? Like teachers can take a sabbatical, take a break from your job, or you've been fired, like so many Black women are experiencing right now. Um, you've been let go from the job. In fact, I was talking to a former client who brought up that a friend of hers was in Uganda. She was on the continent and traveling around because she got a nice severance package. So it was interesting already when I was thinking about this. So, hey, Mel, hey, Donna, welcome. So, yeah, today I'm talking about something that may not fit everyone, but it kind of was what was on my heart and I was excited to talk about. So, YouTube doesn't like that. As I've said to you guys before, YouTube likes if you just talk about one thing. Like if I'm a renovation channel, I talk about house renovation, that's all I talk about. But we're not going to do that because that often drives the creator crazy because they can't talk about anything else. And we're multifaceted here, okay? So, yes, hello. And put you up there. Hey, Donna. Yes. Yeah, oh, cheap. Yeah, cheap. Cheap is important. Um, so yeah, I've always had very bougie taste. I don't even really like the word. I kind of like it, but I don't like it because there's reasons I don't like it. Um, but working class background have always had more higher end taste in some things, and yet also very simple in others. Like I live very simply, um, but it's complicated, people. First thing, get your mindset wrapped around it. So the first trick that got me to travel for 5 months, and I should do the budget, um, but I'll be honest with you about it. So some months totally free travel. Okay, so house sitting. You guys do not sleep on house sitting. Okay, Mel, yeah, thank you. Thanks for the encouragement. Guys, now I always have to say this. I did know about house sitting before Stephanie Perry because she has blown it up. But to be really honest with you, and I admire her, it's amazing. To me, she made house sitting school. And I literally was like, wait, people need a school to know how to do this? Because I did it way back in the day. I think it was the 90s. Not even sure. Okay. I don't know how I heard about it, but I want to say this was pre-internet or very early, and I was going through a hard time. And first I house sat for colleagues of mine when I was teaching. I think that was the very first time I did it. And they would go away for around the holidays, and I tend to stick around. Um, just because of like difficult family. I wouldn't, if I went away, I wouldn't go away for very long. Anyway, and so I would do like pet care and I loved it. I loved, like one girlfriend of mine had like I was in an apartment, she had like a house. I was like, oh, that's nice. She had a hot tub. I'm like, oh, good. Because I am kind of that boho. So I was like, okay, it'd be nice. I have my own apartment, but I'll go stay at her place. It's nicer. So you have to be open-minded. You got to free your mind, but house sitting is the main way. I will put a link to Trusted House Sitters, okay? That is the best known. And guys, you know how we love some incense. Let me put it out though. It's very sweet, very strong. All right. Okay, cleansing you. Okay, there. So don't sleep on house sitting. I don't want to say a lot about it here for a variety of reasons, but you can definitely. That was the part where I was living so low cost because typically, so what house sitting is you're taking care of a pet, typically a dog or a cat. If you don't know, I feel like you guys probably know, but a dog, a cat, sometimes two dogs, um, or, some weird mix, two dogs, one cat, whatever, one dog, one cat, a gerbil. Um, what's the weirdest thing that I've seen? I haven't just horses. I wouldn't do that because I'm not comfortable. So I'm not gonna lie, I'm not comfortable taking care of horses. Um, but you basically get to live free. Typically, it's a very nice home because this I was actually just talking to someone about this. So any of you can do this, okay? The house sitting. Put your fears aside, because the other channels I watch, some women are like, oh, what if they have a camera? You know, it's just not my primary fear that they're filming. I mean, you know, there can be a camera in your motel room. You could stay at a nice, you know, fairly nice hotel. There could be a camera put in there by the previous person if it's small enough. So people worry about things that are so relatively rare and random. Okay. So house sitting, trusted house sitters. I will put a link below my link, and I get like a month free if you decide to join. It is what I use. I joined as a member. Many of the house sits are in Europe and the US. I believe there are some in Canada. I didn't look at Canada, folks, because I was just like, it's so cold, right? But the primary ones are in the US and the UK and parts of Europe. Okay. So house sitting, again, you're not paid, but you're getting a free place to stay. And think about how much hotels are and Airbnbs, which I'm going to talk about. I'm also going to give you some tips on Airbnbs. Okay. But think about how expensive they are per night. That is your major cost. Okay. So look into, don't sleep on house sitting. All right. And you can book a session with me. I'm open to that. It's a little bit, you know, it's not like about stress and wellness, but I can definitely talk you through in detail and take you through the websites and show you some of my tricks, because I can't cover all of them here because some of them are very, very specific. But house sitting is the first one. You're not paying for housing for like a month. So one tip just in general, when I set the filters, I don't start with like 1 week, 2 weeks. No, go for like a month. Set the filter to a month and just go right to those. I apply for those first. I apply for the long-term house sits first. You guys, I literally got offered a 4 month, 4 months, 4 months. And I didn't take it just because I wasn't sure about that timing. That is fairly unusual, but it's not like, so a place to live for 4 months. Think about that, especially if you work online or if you or are retired, right? Um, think about 4 months and say you literally just want to save money, you guys. You want a peaceful place and you want to save money. So think about, even in 4 months, some of you may be getting a pension. You see what I'm saying? Like, think out of the box. So I turned down the 4 months. I'm still thinking about it because I don't know if the person found somebody. Met with them, spoke to them on Zoom, saw the place. Like I said, I wasn't sure about the timing. So if you're interested in house sitting and you get trusted house sitters through my link, I'm going to share afterwards. Like I said, set it for like a month. Okay, because think about it. You don't want to travel someplace, and people do. They travel for like 4 days. I don't do that. So I book the month-long ones, and then if there's a gap of like 2 weeks, I'll then fill that. Okay, so let's move on, because if you want to travel long-term, or you're scouting, you want to scout an area or a country, this is a way to do it. Okay, or you just want to chill out. You literally just have to walk a dog twice a day. You just literally want to zone out on a couch and just chill and maybe get away from stress in America. Okay, so don't sleep on house sitting. So what I would then mix it in with, and then I'll definitely look at your comments in a second, I would mix it in with Airbnb. Because again, you're moving around. So say you booked 2 month long. So you've got 2 months, you're in a nice place, you can go to some museums, go to the cafes. What I did, I managed to be in successfully for 5 months. I was in England, combined England, Italy, and France. Okay. At, as I said, very low cost. So I did do some Airbnb. Now that is where I kind of blew my budget. I'm not going to lie. But you guys know I'm intuitive and I teach about listening to your intuition. And the one in Italy blew my budget, but I'm really happy I went to that town. I still haven't made the video yet, but the people were so nice. I just felt very comfortable. It was in Sardinia, Italy, which is where I want to relocate to. And yeah, the town had murals, like literally, I don't know how many murals. And I set a goal. Some of you know this. My goal, and to get myself out of the Airbnb and to like be out and about, was I would photograph a new mural every day. And I did that, I think, starting on like the third day. Every day there was a new mural. Beautiful. I'm an artist, by my background. And so that was a fun thing for me. So Airbnb can blow your budget, but these are the tips. I'll get to them right away. These are the tips to save money when you need to mix in some Airbnbs between the house sitting. Always, again, go for the month. Go for a month because, and some of you, I didn't know this. If you book over, it's like 28 days, check it, 28, 29 days, but usually 28 starts it. You will get a big discount on almost any Airbnb, guys. Okay. So you see the price, you're like, oh shit, that's really expensive. I thought they said this country was cheap. I thought they said Croatia was cheap or Spain or whatever, right? Book it for a month because they're trying to make money. Most people are traveling for like a weekend to one place, right? That speed of travel. But you're slow traveling. You're trying to maximize your budget. So when you book a month, you're going to get a steep discount on Airbnb. That's the first thing. They have a second thing, you guys, where I believe it's paid by your bank account. It's somehow more secure for them, and you'll save typically another 10 or 11%. Okay, so first, stay in one place for a month. I'll explain again, there's another reason that's cheaper. Okay, you'll get a discount on the Airbnb, almost all of them. If the one you're looking at doesn't do it, go to another one, okay? Because it means they don't really understand how Airbnb works, okay? You'll see it'll automatically take a lot of money off if you do 28, 29, or 30 days or longer. Pay by your bank account is also an option. And then this is another little trick that I discovered I haven't heard anybody talk about. Look for the new listings, okay? Now, why is this? The new listings, it's slightly, it's slightly tricky. The new listings don't have any reviews on Airbnb, or a new listing will have less than 3, I believe. So they don't have stars. Like you can't, you can't see what their average is, but it'll say new. So new, they're going to be a little more hungry, you guys. They're going to be a little more desperate to just cut to the chase to have people come in, because again, they don't show up as much when they're new. Airbnb doesn't show them as much. So search for new hosts specifically. Make sure the pictures, everything looks nice. One, you could also ask for a discount if they don't have it, because again, they're new. They may not know that. So they'll very likely give you a discount for 28 days. And or also say to them, wait a minute, often the new host is cheaper. Okay, do you follow me? Because they're trying to get people to book them, right? Because they're not competitive, because they don't have 100 reviews. They don't have even 10 reviews. So people are a little like, I don't know. So that's what I did with the Airbnb that I stayed at in Italy. It was brand new. And I was like, I like that. It's new. It's clean. It was like, it looked, I think there was like not one review. They were fantastic. They were the nicest family. The whole building was filled with her family, which I loved because it was like the stereotype of Italy. She's like, my whole family is in the building. And I was like, and I think it was 6 apartments, if I'm doing the math right, and only one wasn't her family. So, if I needed anything, I just go next door and be like, So look for new hosts. Again, if you're a little bit adventurous, really read the description, really look at the pictures. Don't let anything be blurry. Make sure you see every room. And another tip for Airbnb, always message them and ask them some simple question, because you want to see how they answer you. Do they answer you nicely, and are they helpful, or is it just like, no? Like I may say something like, what is the speed of your internet, or blah, 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 something, and just, again, see how they respond. Okay. And let that, especially with the new host, let that tell you, okay, they're going to, and do they respond quickly, or did it take them 2 days? Okay. So these are some tips, really the main tips. Now, there's one that I haven't said yet. And I know some of you are thinking like, yeah, I don't have money to do this because I can't pay 2 rents. As the regulars know, like, Mel might know, and who else that's here is a regular, Donna may know. I wouldn't do that either. Like, just ethically, I don't want to pay 2 rents. find a subletter for your place. Find somebody to, now I live in a town where there are a lot of college students and there's a good amount of people coming and going. So for the 5 months I was traveling, I had someone paying my rent. So basically, and the bills, you guys. So basically, my costs at that point were zero. Do you see that? I brought it to zero. And now, okay, because you're like, Viv, so you had to pay for the airfare, of course. And I don't have airfare tricks. I'm not great at the airfare, but just diligent. I found, like, I think my airfare um to England was, I want to say 500 something, but that does sound too cheap. I'm not sure how much my airfare was, but again, that was less than the cost of 1 month's rent, and my rent was being paid, right? My rent and my bills were being paid. So find, if you need a break from the United States, you want to get away, you want to either just look around at different countries, or you just really want to chill. Maybe just you have an interest in different countries like the UK. So let me share about the UK. I really did like the UK. I mentioned that in other videos. Um, I wanted to see the smaller towns in the UK. Very traditional, very beautiful. A lot of really nice homes. Like the average person, well, maybe not the average person, but there are a lot of very nice homes in the UK. As it started to warm up, it was beautiful. They have beautiful parks and gardens. So maybe you just need to chill. Some of you know I was in Liverpool, right, where the Beatles were from. And I wasn't in the heart of Liverpool, which is like, is the city. It's kind of gritty. It reminded me of Brooklyn, or, yeah, you know, reminded me of neighborhoods in New York. But I was more in the suburbs of Liverpool, and it was gorgeous. It was beautiful. Beautiful park. I did share some images with that. Um, and I was taking care of a cat. How hard is that? So say you want to write a book, or you want to write some poetry, or you just want to decompress, book a house sit, you guys, where you just take care of a cat. Now, even, or take care of a dog. Why? Because a dog, you have to go out every day, right? So at least you're getting your walking. So it really can be, it sounds weird, but it can be a way to get yourself into a new environment that may be good for you. So those are my main tips. If I think so, get your mind together that you can travel on a budget. Literally, what I've talked about is I'm covering airfare to and fro, and I'm finding cheap Airbnbs when needed in between the house sitting. Okay. Um, and so I would say over the 5 months, if we average it, maybe I paid, maybe my house, because the Airbnb was expensive. And also in France, I did have to Airbnb, and I looked for a new host, and it was fine. She was a little snooty, like I said, but the apartment was lovely. I loved the town I was in, and I really didn't have to interact with her that much. She just wasn't particularly warm. But I literally chose because that was one of the cheapest Airbnbs in France. And it was a cute apartment. It was very, very clean. And it was a medieval town. It had like a medieval village. I was like, oh, that sounds cool, because I'm a nerd. So again, new host on Airbnb. It's a little risky, but there are ways to mitigate it. They often will be cheaper, and or they'll give you a discount. If they don't already know, they should give you a discount for 28 days. Pay by your bank account, and it'll pop up on Airbnb. And again, book for at least a month. And again, the house sitting, look for a month long or longer, and then fill in, trust and believe you will probably fill in with like 1 week or 2 week. And I literally made a circuit, where I was just traveling like smoothly from place to place. Got to see a lot of the countryside of the various countries. So yeah, so now I'm going to go to any comments or questions. So yeah, I did that for 5 months, and well, okay, so I think I paid for like 2 months of it, like was Airbnbs, maybe a little bit more, but it's weird, guys. I feel like I had so many month-long things. I'm like, wait, how did I, what happened to the months? Let's see. So yeah, any questions or comments? Mel says, yeah, this is inspiring me. As I always say, I do think Mother Earth wants us to be mindful of our travel because it does put out a lot of emissions. There are ways you can try to mitigate that. I always recommend, I'm traveling to look for a new home. and maybe just moderation. I mean, people are going to travel anyway, honestly. Um, the nice thing, actually, I've heard traveling around Africa is actually harder because they haven't, that may change. They haven't made it easy to hop from country to country because the way the world is, they're sort of thinking you're coming from outside Africa into Africa. Those prices, okay? But if you want to get like from Tanzania to, I don't know, to Ghana or whatever, it's not supposed to be that cheap. While in Europe, literally you can see a flight for $35 to go from one country to the other. Like literally to be in a whole other country, a whole other language, whole other food, $40, $50. If you wait, and I messed up a bit with that. Um, Check your flights. When you're going to go country to country, check that early. And you can definitely lock in $30 flights. Somebody I was watching on YouTube even said, I think it was from Blacksit Global. It was Krishan in Blacksit Global. She said she saw a price. It was like $30. And she's like, to get on a plane? Yeah. Wait, we're going to go by plane for $30, right? You can't go by bus. You can't go by Greyhound or, for $30, right? So that is a good thing if you are interested in Europe, is that it's very cheap to hop. The in between those countries is very easy. Like I said, there's some things I don't want to necessarily say out to the general public, but if you want to, you can book. I will definitely can book a call with you. Hold on, guys. Oh, that's good. Whew. It was really, really hot before it cooled off fast. You can book a call with me and I can literally walk you through the trusted house sitters and Airbnb, right? And give you some more tips. Okay, now I have chamomile gunk on my lips. So if you see weird stuff, it's because I was careless with my chamomile flowers and they're like breaking apart in my cup if I wanted to read my tea leaves. So let me see. Hey, No, before you go. Hey, welcome, welcome. Who else is here? And Mel says, such a cool topic. You have always loved nomadic travel, hippies and people. Oh, wait. No, living in the car. Yeah, I thought about that. I'm going to be honest with you. I did. During COVID, we were all a little crazy in that time. Okay. The thing is, I've always liked small spaces, but a car, yeah, no. And I think, be honest, as a Black woman, I think things some people can get away with. My friend Ken, who passed, is like, when grunge, do you guys remember when grunge? You have to be older. Grunge was the style. This is terrible. Don't hate me for saying this. But some of you will know what I'm saying is true. He's like, he's Black, gay guy, and he's just funny as hell. And he's like, grunge. We can't do grunge. Black people can't do grunge because if we do grunge, they'll think we're like the gas station attendant. And I was like, Kenny, it was true. It was like the plaid shirt. Okay, and we're New Yorkers, so sorry if that bothers anybody, but it's true. He's just like, people will just be like, oh, you work here? Right? If you look so casual, right? And they're like, you're Black and you dress like that? Okay, so yeah, fill up my car or something. So he's like, yeah, we can't do grunge. And I was like, you're just, that's just so mean. So yeah, no, not in the car though. But they're a cool community. Yeah. And the French town I loved, as I said, because of that medieval, like I like looking at architecture and like things like, it had that old fashioned, like from the movies, the beams that cross, like the heavy brown beams that cross, and then like the plaster, and I think it was horsehair. I don't even know. Like, I don't know what's in there. Like, I think, yeah, horsehair, and then they plaster it. And, the steep roofs. And the house I stayed in France, the wall was like this thick, like really, really thick. Generally kept me cool, but they had a heat wave. And the walls were not square, so the house was like slightly like that. It wasn't that it was leaning, but it was built slightly like on a diagonal. I had never seen anything like that. Okay. But yeah, if you really want to do it and you want to do it on a budget, I can take you through. One thing to tout Stephanie Perry's House Sitters Toolkit. I believe it's free. Go to Stephanie Perry's channel. She's sort of, the ones really leading this movement. and especially encouraging Black women, especially to get out. As we know, many of us are, and many of all kinds of people are leaving, are, getting out of the U.S. and have already. Um, so she has a house sitters toolkit that I believe is free. I used it; it's great, and she even gives you a sample letter, which is very warm and fuzzy, that you send to the pet owner as to why they should choose you to look after their little dog or Siamese cat. Okay. So get her toolkit. It's absolutely free. I highly recommend it. I wouldn't try to redo that myself because she's got that really covered. Um, and like I said, I used her letter. You change it, of course. We don't want to all be sending out the same letter. I personalized it. I say, well, I'm a retired art professor, or I say I'm a retired art teacher, because I want people to have a little sense of me. So I'm sure there's something wonderful and interesting about you. What I also do is if there's anything I have in common with the person, like if they're older, I say something about my age. If they say something about art, that's when I mention the art. If they say, something that makes you stand out in their mind, like, oh, we have something in common. Okay, it's a little trick, and you will get chosen. I have gotten, like I said, really magically lined up house sits. I think in between house sits, there was one night I had to stay in an Airbnb until I left the country where the house sitting was most predominant. And then I switched over to Airbnbs, for the rest. But again, you could see how by saving money house sitting, you then can splurge. Like maybe you want to go to Dubai, for example. So you save money for 2 months house sitting, you take that money that you saved and you go to an expensive place, for example. Okay. Yeah. Oh, okay. Let's see. I love house sitting. I haven't done an international one. Yes. Thank you for saying that. No, because like I said, some people, this is completely like, what? Again, it's not for the type of person who's going to be like, I'm not going to somebody's house. I don't know. It could be dirty. A tip on that no would probably confirm. I always do I do a Zoom call with them. And I mean, I'm not peeking behind them, but you can get a sense of the person. Um, so I always, before I agree to a house sit, I set up WhatsApp or Zoom and I talk to them. I see if they laugh when I say something. I see if we have a rapport. That's important. So yes, so lounging by the pool. Thank you. So a lot of the ones, if you want to stay in the US, but you want a nicer environment, California has a lot of house sits. The coast areas that are kind of a little more upscale, Colorado, like certain places. And like No says, yeah, you can be lounging by the pool. International one, yes, are fun. Okay, you do. See, I thought, okay. No says I use the new listing hack all the time. And I'll say to them, your listing is new. I don't feel, which is true. I'll say your listing is new. You don't have, like I said, if they have 1 or 2 reviews, it still doesn't even give you an average. So I'll say that. I'll say I'm a little nervous about, and then I want to see what they say. If they're rude, right? Right? No, it's like, in fact, no, do you have any other tips in terms of that? But the new listing, yeah, I did not hear that from anybody. That was my kind of like, let me see about this. Let's see. And I'm going to show all of them. Did you plan all the sits? Very good question. Like I said, like I said, I had done house sits before, but I mean, I'm strategic. No, so the big house sits, I mean, I got them like, and even people I told about, they're like, wow, how'd you do that? I think I had 2 month-long house sits, and then the rest were like 2 weeks. So they were long enough for me to get there, chill out, like the town, get used to the place. So the longer house sits I planned, right? And then there'd be a gap. And I think on the road, or once these were planned, I'd plan the little ones because they pop up. No. So the little house sits will pop up. People are going away for a week. So they tend to do that a little more last minute. So I had the big ones planned and I just didn't worry. I'm like, oh, there's a 2 week gap. I knew I wasn't going to stay 2 weeks in Airbnb and it would just line up. Um, yeah. And so did I plan the Airbnb? Oh, maybe more. I did plan the Airbnbs because, as you know, I mean, with the Airbnb, if you can get a little more lead time, is there a discount? It's not so much there's a discount. I knew I wanted to stay in Italy, right? In the EU, we have 3 months as Americans. For those of you who don't know, you have 3 months in Europe. But the UK, you actually have 6 months. A lot of people don't know that. You have 6 months as an American in the UK, and you have 3 months in the Schengen zone, not just Europe, because there are other parts of Europe that aren't in the Schengen. It can get a little confusing. So the Schengen countries that you might think of are Spain, Italy, France, Portugal, actually even Bulgaria is in there now. Switzerland is Switzerland's tricky. I don't know about Switzerland. Switzerland's in the EU, but not Schengen. I'm not sure, or vice versa. Don't Switzerland is off my radar because Switzerland is so expensive. Now, Switzerland does have some house sits though. Switzerland, beautiful chalet in the mountains. You can spin around and sing "The Hills Are Alive." You can do that. Okay, harder to get because the moment one of those is listed, it goes. Another hack with the house sitting. Sorry to jump around, but it's just coming to me. You can put alerts. So you set an alert. You set an alert that if you do a search, it saves it. The moment that 1 month house sit comes on, they'll alert you and you immediately do not wait. You immediately apply for that house sit. You read it, obviously, then you apply. Hey, Faith. How are you? So, no, to your question, it was a bit of both. The longer ones, I definitely locked down because I was flying overseas for that. The long ones were locked down. And then the little filler ones of the house sits, I did. Wow, a squirrel just jumped like 10 feet from the house in front of me to a tree. It was like it was flying. I did those as I went along, the filler ones. And then the Airbnb, I knew, okay, I'm leaving the country by this time. And so I booked the Airbnbs maybe 2-3 months out. Yeah. Grunge was my favorite. Listen, I don't know, your background. I don't know. But I remember at the time because it was, oh gosh, and it was those bands from Seattle and the long hair. And it was kind of like a redo of a hippie, but not a different look. But I just remember the plaid shirt. I just remember like, and anyway, that wasn't really my style. My style's casual, but yeah, he's like, no, they'll think you're the gas station attendant. I'm like, all right, because I was asking him something about it. But he was a gay fashion designer, and so he was more luxury and avant-garde, and yeah, he wasn't doing grunge. Yes, Faith, I was just talking about how I traveled for 5 months cheaply. And what I started to say is I think the monthly average then, since some of my months were free, probably I was paying like $400 a month for housing because like I want to say 8, maybe about 10 weeks were free. Might have been more than 10 weeks because I did 2 month-longs. Guys, somebody told me I was out of the country for 5.5 months. It's like I was almost 6. I'm like, really? I lost track of time. But I'd say for housing, if you averaged it, I probably paid like between $350 and $400. Now, of course, you're paying for food, and you are paying for like train to get from like one house sit to the other. I took a bus. One time I took a bus that was really long. I was like, okay, I wouldn't do that again. But like I said, some things I don't want to say out, but if you want to book a consult with me, I can really help you plan where you want to go and get those long house sits. Hmm. Wait, Faith, what? Say that again. I've been doing this lately. Tell me, because I don't know which part you mean. Also, before the Zoom, I scan those pics. Yes. Oh, in terms of house sitting? Yes. Yes. I'll go ahead and say this. I'm sure she's not watching. I had one house sit that was, you have to be flexible, right? No, like if you've done it, Know Before You Go has done house sitting. This is not for somebody super rigid. Now, I like having some control, but I'm also flexible to a point. And I had one house sit, so I'll give you the dirt. The pictures, the kitchen looked a mess. Like literally the person was baking or something and they took the picture and I was like, question that. It didn't necessarily look like they were baking because then I could excuse it, but some of the pictures look messy. And don't you know, I accepted the sit. I'll be really trying to think of how much to tell you guys. It was taking care of a cat, and I love cats, and cats are easy to take care of, right? So it was a house sit taking care of a cat. The woman was in the medical field, okay? So a professional medical field. We ended up kind of becoming friends. But when I got there, things were a mess. Her vacuum broke, you guys, and she had already left the country. And I'm like, I have no way. And it was all carpeted, all carpet. I was like, you need to get a vacuum. She actually ordered a vacuum, got it delivered like 2 days later. So people are flexible because you're in their home, you're taking care of their, animal. They're going to be nice to you, generally. But that person, even though I had to use my discernment, they were, like I said, a medical professional. They were very kind, but their place was messy because they were going through a lot, it seemed like, and they were under a lot of stress, interestingly. Um, I ended up, they were rushing at the last minute to clean up the place. I ended up just giving it a good vacuum. That it turned out to be fine, but I expressed my needs, which was like, I can't stay in this place with the cat shedding, because it was a long-haired cat, you guys. It was a black long-haired cat that literally would shed like clumps of hair. And so the carpet, it looked dirty because like the hair mixed in with like a cream carpet, and it just looked like it looked terrible. But I expressed my needs. I was like, I need to clean, and you need to get me a vacuum that works, and I will. So yes, definitely look at the pictures. And if you get if you get an icky feeling, then do not do it. Nobody's forcing you to go to these people's home. Oh, I use the I see you're new, but again, I use it with the caveat, with the like, oh, and you don't have a lot of reviews. And so I'm nervous, which is true. So I'm not coming at them like, because I've thought about this, like, you need me, and I will give you a good review if you're good. I come at it that, you're untested, I just don't know. And that's when they'll, like I said, first of all, their price is usually going to be low if they have any sense. It has to be lower, because why would I go to you? So and so has 100 reviews, 4.75 stars, and you have 0. You need to give me an incentive. So that is a really big tip for Airbnb. And yeah, you might have a problem because they're a new host. So you might have to kind of train them a little. But for the money savings, that's been my trick that has worked. Yeah. Definitely look at the pictures. Definitely look at the pictures. Mel says, I have known artists, they're all focused on doing work they loved and whether they invested the best they could. Yeah. Yeah. You know, the times they are changing. I don't know. I keep saying to you guys, I felt like something shifted for the better. And I really don't wish anybody ill, but it was around the time people started talking about Trump's health. It was a little before that. I felt like, things aren't going to go to the worst that they could, seeing the trajectory they're on. But I hesitate to say that. I really do, because I wouldn't want anybody to base not leaving or getting their stuff together based on that. But I feel like there might be a little, like we've reached a tipping point, and it's not clear to me. I still, so my plan is to, again, if all goes well, the town I'm living in, you guys, is such a sweet town. Very, very crunchy, kind of liberal people. Not that, that can bring problems too, of course, but people who try to be literally anti-racist. The services in the town are very good support services, very friendly, very warm. So part of me is like, well, maybe you're here half the year and you live abroad half the year. I don't know. What do you guys think? Are any of you thinking of that dual, especially maybe anybody over 50 who's thinking of like, okay, maybe I live in two places. Let me know, because this is a new thought for me. It's a new thought for me. Yeah, and yeah, artists, musicians, we want to do the work we love because it's like a mission. Yeah, yeah, we try to invest, but often you're underpaid traveling from state to state. Yeah, but they were always traveling from state to state or all over Europe and not spending much of their savings. Right. Well, I thought you were going to say they would be spending a lot of their, because and I haven't shared this with you guys. The way I even felt I could do this, and it's a blessing. It was a blessing from my friend who passed. Um, to like they left part of their retirement to me, and so that was really what even. So that's why I made this video, because I was like, oh, I can't travel, and it gave me enough of a cushion where I'm like, okay, I'm going to take this risk. So that's partly why I made this video, is because I understand for some of you it just feels like it's impossible. And I hate, like Instagram and people like showing off, oh, I'm in Croatia. Oh, you know, so I'm trying to give you the ways you can make it happen. Okay. Think outside the box. And I think that's why House Sitting, like I said before, it was on anybody's radar. It was a paper magazine, you guys. I think I subscribed to this like paper, came on newsprint paper, and had like little, almost like wanted ads, like, house sitter needed. Now, real quick, there are some paid house sitting sites, but again, if you're going to be paid, those sites usually involve taking care of like horses, taking care of livestock. Obviously, I was going to say your girl. I'm from the Bronx. Okay, I grew up in a city. I'm more of a cosmopolitan person. I read, not that people out in the country don't read. They probably read more because they have time. But I'm not like a hands-on farm girl. So, if you look at a country like France, for example, right? That'd be, oh, I'd love to house sit in France. They're going to want you to take care of horses or pigs or goats. It's going to be like hardcore. And I am just looking at dogs, cute dogs, cats, maybe a gerbil. I looked at a parrot and I'm like, nah, I don't want to do a parrot. They're too noisy. So yeah, how did they go around? How did these Mel's given me info here. They either stayed with new friends, yes, or they did exactly, or lovely and share, yeah. They'd say, I do this and that. Mm-hmm. Exactly, right. But before the internet, that's the thing, because you guys, I've said this to you before. I first went to Italy 20 years ago. It was exactly 20 years ago, I think in November. And I wanted to stay right then. I was like, the reason I think, and especially for Black and Brown folks, the reason I think it's important for us to travel is it opens our minds. Like, going back 20 years ago to Italy, I mean, I was a kid. I don't know. I was quite young, and I just remember the coffee shops. What struck me, because I did push my way through, because I was coming from New York City directly, so I had the New Yorker, which you needed. So at the cafes, at the bar, which is really a coffee shop, everybody crowds at the counter. So I had to kind of like elbow my way through to get up to the counter, right? It was really funny. I remember it now, kind of like, I get up to the counter, like marble countertop, and I said, something in Italian, 3 words. And then I noticed, but everybody drinks their coffee standing up. And I was like, that is so weird. They're just, and I hadn't seen, like, the coffee cup was this big. And I'm like, that's not a cup of coffee. That's like a thimble, you guys. And really, they're like, 2 of those and you're done. And I'm like, what was that? And then they'd be gone. So even that, and I love to tell this story. So with my same friend Kenny, when we went, he's also an artist. So of course, we wanted to see all the Renaissance art. We wanted to see the Michelangelos and the statues that are super realistic and marble. We wanted to see all that. So we go like the second day, I don't know where we are, in Florence or somewhere. And I had to use the bathroom. So I'm like, okay, let's go in this cafe. We go in and I asked Il Bagno or something, and the guy points and I'm like, oh. And so I open the door, you guys, and there's no toilet seat. And I looked down because I'm like, and there's a hole in the ground and it's stone. If I remember right, it was literally like stone, like ancient, like granite. And I was like, my first thought. That's why I think this is so funny because it's so stupid. I'm like, wow, they must be under construction. Don't you love that? That's such an American thought, you guys. I was like, okay, but they must be constructing this bathroom and they took the toilet out because there was no white toilet bowl. There was no toilet bowl. I'm like, where's the toilet bowl? And then I'm standing there and I'm like, wait a minute. So I squat, but then I'm like, is this how they do this? So I get out. I leave. So my friend's standing outside, right? So Kenny's outside. And he's like, oh, I got to go too. I go, okay. But I go, tell me what you find interesting or something. And he's like, what? I go, just go in. And he just looked at me like, what? It's a bathroom. He goes in, he comes out, you guys. He's like, I don't know what that was. Like, what? I'm like, yeah, they didn't have the toilet bowl. Like, you couldn't sit. Like, what was that? And we are just like perplexed. And it was just, if you didn't know that, you're just like, what the hell is going on? Like I said, construction. I'm like, obviously they're renovating the bathroom. Oh, they're renovating. Yeah, they were vague. Yeah, they were probably couch surfing too. That I haven't done. That's a whole other thing, couch surfing. So Donna says, hey guys, this is nice to hear back from you. I'd really love to do Wales, Scotland. Listen, you guys, you just made me think of something, Donna. So tell me what you think of my story, because I thought my story was funny. Because what would you have thought? What would you have thought if you walk into a bathroom and you just see a hole in the ground that you didn't know? You just didn't know. You're like, and nobody warns you, like, oh, the bathroom's under construction. Okay, so I did have one difficulty with my airline. It was Air France. They were amazing. I'm not a travel influencer, but I wanted to shout out Air France. They were very, very good. There was 1 inch of snow, you guys, at Charles de Gaulle Airport, and they freaked out. Again, being a New Yorker, I'm literally out loud saying 1 inch of snow and you're going to move like, they're like, no, we can't land. And I'm like, have you ever been to Chicago or like 1 inch of snow is not, they rerouted us. Anyway, ended up having to go to a hotel. It was actually brutal. That was the worst thing about my whole trip. They put me up in a hotel, but then I'm trying to navigate in French, which I don't know, for like 4 hours of sleep to come back to the airport. And I was having some problem, and the girl who offered to help me, and we were all crowded in this like motel that clearly wasn't ready for like 70 people to arrive, right? So there's this long ass line of people all from that flight. They're trying to check us in, and everybody's just standing around, and it was late, and it was sleeting now at this point, and it was cold. It was colder than you would typically be in France. And this girl offered to help me was an Irish girl. And she was so sweet because I was like, oh no, blah, blah, blah. And she goes, no, I can show you that too. She's like, I'm like a tech somebody. And she was so kind, you guys. That struck me. And I think I asked her where she was from, and she's like, Ireland. And she just, of all the people there, because I think I must have been was I coming from Italy too? That struck me. So very, very kind. And then I think her boyfriend was there too, and he was smiling, and she's like, no, I will help you figure this out. And she was Irish. And so what I've heard of the Irish from Ireland are very, very nice. Especially if you're not, you don't act like an obnoxious American, which most Black folks do not go abroad and hopefully act too entitled and loud. So yeah, I'd love to see Scotland as well. England really was beautiful. You definitely see those little old stone houses, like I can't even explain it, and the walled gardens, and just very pretty, especially going towards the springtime. In the winter, incredibly gray, incredibly dreary. Because I was there, like I said, from February, the very start of February, through like April. I guess that was March, April. I guess I wasn't. I think I was in England for 3 months. Yeah. We're definitely considering Now, the thing, Donna, I would tell you about the UK, it's a little cheaper, but people in the UK are complaining it's too expensive. But again, if you're coming from America, I think you'll find the UK a little cheaper, but it's not, it's not Vietnam, it's not Thailand. Um, but what I liked about England, I was just saying this to a friend of mine, I like the ease of English. And occasionally, of course, they'd laugh because I'd say something and they'd say something, and I'm like, and they know right away you're American. And but the words are close enough where I understood. Like they called something, a little pastry, a weird name, and I'm like, what? And it's like, oh, it's a Scottish such and such, it's a blah blah blah. And I'm like, oh, okay. Or they'd have me repeat something, because an American word is not, the British word, but it definitely like 96% synergy of language. So I like that, definitely in England. So Donna, yeah, I didn't know that you were thinking of relocating. So do what that's what I was looking at. Like do a scouting trip. Don't just go for a couple of days. You need to go for, guys, I'm seeing online a lot of people literally like, oh, I watched a video on Albania, I'm going to go to Albania. Like, do, if you have the money at all. Now you may just have to be like prayer, and just go. You research, you got some money, you prayer, and you go. And then if God forbid you don't like it, you go to another country. But if you can, Donna, what I would suggest is really go and stay. And it's not just me, some of the other slow travelers, go and stay for at least 3 weeks, any place you're thinking of staying. And another problem, I'm getting excited talking about this. Another problem I see is people, and again, this is more the dumb American, I think. They go to one city and they're like, oh, I didn't like Lisbon. Oh my God, there's a whole country. Do you understand? There's a seashore. That's like saying, yeah, I went to New York and I don't like America. No, right? There's Tennessee, there's Georgia, very different. There's the Gulf Coast. There is Florida. There's different parts of Florida. There's more hippie part of Florida. Then there's a richer part of Florida. Then there's, even in New York, are you in Brooklyn? Are you in upstate New York? Where are you? Are you in New England? Very different. Are you in Texas? Very different, right? So I recommend, if you are scouting, wanting to escape America, wanting maybe even just a few months of more peace, different, be open to going to different parts of the country. They're going to be different, you know, and know, know what you're looking for. Okay, I see some funny comments coming up, so I definitely have to see this. Okay, you leave for the winter. So no, me too. I am planning, goddess willing, to leave in January. I have an art show that's supposed to go up January. You guys, I am literally, my friend doesn't know it yet. I'm going to ask her to take down the show. That's how ready I am. Meaning I'm going to hang the show, but I'm not sticking around for when the show comes down. I'll just be like, girl, this is what you, just take the canvas off the wall. Just lift the painting off the wall. Or if it's a roll, I'm trying to think of how to make it easier for her. Just roll that up. You're going to keep it for me anyway. You were the one I was going to give it to. So that's what I'm going to do. That's what my plan is. I'm down to take care of goats. Faith, a lot of people have chickens and they're like, eat the eggs, obviously. So you're getting farm fresh eggs. Okay. So even in terms of that, think about that. If you like eggs, you got breakfast 3 days a week, right? So, Donna says, I've definitely considered having dual. You guys, all of you watching me, check out the Nomad Capitalist. See, this was a good topic for me because I always can tell a good topic when I can just speak on it without planning. Check out a guy called Nomad Capitalist. Okay, he's funny. I find him funny because he's very, I don't even know what to say about him. I don't think he comes from money. I don't get that. But he now, he has like lived like a king, different places, Dubai, Oman. And his thing is we only work with high net worth individuals, but he gives great advice. None of us, I don't care what your background is watching, you need to have 2 passports minimum. The way the world is right now, you need to have 2 passports, 2 nationalities. Okay? He's saying now even more. So Donna, if you have a heritage like me being from the Caribbean, I have my passport, my citizenship And then because America does allow dual, I have American and I have my birthplace, my country of birth. Now you can actually get another. Like I was watching a girl, Afro French, and I think she had five. And I was like, you know, five makes me think of like you're up to something. You know what I mean? Like what, do you have different identities? What's going on? But she had five, and she explained how she got all five of them. And funny enough, she had married an Italian, but she didn't have Italian citizens. Anyway, she had five passports. So you know, it's important right now with the way the world is in general. Yeah, it's in general, I would definitely say get dual. Absolutely. For any of you, any of you, any of you. If the bathroom was a hole, I would have thought you were a house. Yeah, yeah. Uh, of course, then, you know, another thing, you guys, again, if you haven't traveled to Europe, and again, this was 20 years ago, but I think I encountered this still. Many public bathrooms, they also don't have the, um, not the lid, but even the part you literally your bum sits on. They don't have that. They just have the bare bowl, like the bowl with the bolts, and they haven't put the seat on. Have any of you seen that? And I was like, but I think it's because the seat with different people, it would just get twisted and they don't have money to be like replacing it. So you just squat and don't rest your butt down. But yeah, I just thought it was hilarious. We were just like winking at each other the whole time, like, that's crazy. They all go in there and they squat. And like I said, it was a small, the hole was relatively small, but it was stone. So clearly this was like an ancient, it wasn't like a new build where they had just done that. And I was like, oh my God, you know? So it was pretty funny. Down south. I do I do hate outhouses. I really do. Because okay, well, it's probably gonna be too much information, but I once stayed at a house, you guys, because I was moving in these very crunchy circles. And instead of the toilet wasn't a water toilet, it was an earthen toilet, which is different. It was not an outhouse. It was inside, but it was dirt. You guys, what is that called? I am not lying to you. There was no smell. It smelled like dirt. Like it smelled like, I'm like, oh. And she literally had the house kind of cantilevered out. And so she had like a barrel that would catch the waste, but it was in dirt. And I thought about it. I'm like, yeah, why do we poo in water? That doesn't make sense. It does seem like it's, you know, back to the earth. And you just put like sawdust, you guys, or something. And it very different than an outhouse. No smell. It just, and it, you know, there was like a bed of earth, and then you just filled it with earth, and it had a lid down. And I think part of it was there was ventilation and just bacteria. It was so clean. It was so clean. I was really, really impressed. Not like an outhouse, which does give me nightmares. Um, yeah, and like I said, I want to say more, but there's some stuff that I don't want to say out. But yeah, if you want more, even more detail, I think Stephanie Perry, she has a lot of videos, but you could look for some of her house sitting ones. But I mean, I've covered the basics. Um, definitely, definitely meet with them. If you get a bad vibe, with that Zoom call, do not do it. So interestingly, the lady so you guys, I already booked my first one. I already got one. And the lady's like, oh, we'll meet and I'll give you the book, the instruction book, you know, once you accept. And I said, no, very nicely. I said, you know, I really prefer that we meet before, right? Because I don't want to accept it and then have a weird feeling. So she met with me within like an hour. We did a lovely Zoom call. Her husband's yelling stuff too, like, da, 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 that's how you use this. And he started getting into it. And I had them laughing. And, you know, I just, like I said, I want to see what they seem like. You're going to be in their home. You can scope a little in the background. You can see, is it messy, whatever. Ask them any questions you have. See if they seem super finicky. See if they seem really like this lady was like, oh my God, no, you go out, enjoy yourself. It's this cat. The cat sleeps all the time. She, you know, because some people, and this I told her, and she said, that's ridiculous. I said, there are people on house who want house sitters. I've seen people who ask for 3 walks a day, but I think I even saw someone who asked for 4 walks a day. You guys, and I'm like, wait, if I'm walking the dog four times a day for like half hour to an hour, like what kind of life am I having? Seriously. And this lady was like, oh, that's ridiculous. That's crazy. She's like, no, no, no. You can leave the cat, you know, make sure there's food and clean water. I'm like, of course, you know, and she's like, the cat's sleeping anyway, you know, go do what you want, whatever, whatever. So you have any Grey Poupon, right? You know, I didn't eat. I must have eaten in London. What? No, I found a great, listen, it's not British food you're going to eat unless, yeah, you want the fish and chips and whatever. Listen, for how they badmouth, how some racists there badmouth their Indian population, that is the joke. Like the British food is Indian food. You can get some amazing Indian. So I had Indian food, I think both days that I was in London. I didn't really want fried fish with fried chips and like you know, no. I told you, oh gosh, I had British food, you guys. It was awful. I went to a pub, a 500-year-old pub. I told you about this. The beams were like leaning, and I made the joke, well, what if it collapses? And they looked at me. It was a joke, but they're like, it's been standing for, you know, for 500 years. I don't think it's going to fall now or something. And I'm like, yeah, well, that was a joke. Um, and they have this thing, mushy peas. Tell me you've had mushy peas. It was disgusting. It was disgusting. Like, you know how even our frozen peas taste nice, right? Like American frozen peas, they taste nice. They're sweet. This that I had, I think it was fish chips and mushy peas. It was disgusting. I'm like, is this baby food? And they were kind of like, yeah, it's an acquired taste. Like that was the vegetable was mushy peas. So yes, check out Nomad Capitalist. He's wonderful. So any questions or comments? This was just on how to travel in a budget. It does limit you to certain countries, but as I said, if you can combine the house sitting with not having to pay your rent at home, or like in my case, you guys, and this is why I really think Spirit is like, this is what you're supposed to do. My landlord is selling the property. So where I live, you guys, is after, I think I've been here maybe 9 years. I'm really bad with time. Somewhere between 8 and 9 years. The most wonderful landlords ever, ever, really nice people. And he's selling. He's selling to move out of the center of the town. He wants to be more out in the country as he's gotten older. And so I would have to move anyway. So isn't that interesting? You know, that's like, huh. Also, another tip that is very important: have your health insurance. Do not do this. Do not travel for a couple months without health insurance. Again, maybe I'm talking here to people over 50, but I don't recommend it. That was in part why I came back home, or back to the US, I should say. Um, and I recommend, and I don't have a link for this, I am not an affiliate, but it's called Allianz, ANZ. Something like that is the spelling. That has been the best insurance. I'm not the only one recommending it. There's one called Safety Wing. So if you youngsters are watching me, any of you, and you're in your 20s, then try Safety Wing. But as you get older, the prices for Safety Wing were really high. It's like a nomadic insurance. So it's like you really are traveling everywhere. It's highly recommended too, but the cost, like I said, I thought was way too high for Safety Wing. Try this Allianz. And even as I was traveling, I would see their offices around Europe, which just made me feel more comfortable. I did have one issue where I got like an upper respiratory in Italy. You know, it could have been a mild case of COVID. Honestly, I don't know. Um, I literally did telehealth. They got me medicine, and within 3 days, I was better. And Alliance did comp me for that. Okay, yeah, no says yeah. Alliance is very good. Did I spell it right? Alliance, something like that. They're very good. And again, as many of you may have heard, when you travel abroad, a lot of places, the hospital is the checkups are so cheap, you can pay out of pocket. Now, I specifically want to mention Mexico here because I've heard something. Tell me, any of you live now or in the future. Mexico scares me. Here's why. I think a few countries are like this. They literally will be like, you can't leave that hospital till you pay. So if you require hospitalization, you pay up front, which is cool if you know how much it is, but hospitalization, say in surgery, they will not let you leave, which I don't understand. Are they feeding you? Like what it's not like here where maybe you're billed. Mexico specifically with hospitals, you're not billed, you have to pay. You either pay right at the beginning, or if for some reason you came in emergency surgery, they don't let you leave. And that's very frightening to me. That doesn't, my mother would say casera. I don't even know what that means, but it's not casera. I don't know if that's French, but that's Jamaican for like, that doesn't sound right. Yeah, and I'm not playing with that. And to be really honest with you, really transparent, I did not have a credit card. So I was traveling with a set amount of money in my mind. And of course, I have to say this, make sure you have money to get back home or get back where you need to. Um, so most people, of course, say, have a credit card because like the Mexico thing, say you get hit by a car and you need knee surgery. Maybe it is $3,000. Maybe you don't have that liquid, but you have the credit card. I did not have that. So definitely get your health insurance. I did, but it ran out because I think I paid health insurance for like 4 months. And then like literally like, yeah, the last month I didn't have it. And that was very stressful for me. Of course, that's when I started to not feel well, right? I'm laughing, but it's like, I knew I didn't have health insurance, so I started to get stressed. So then I didn't feel good. And I was like, oh my gosh. And then, of course, I got more and more stressed. But really came home because one, I'm supposed to have this art show and I need to make some art. And two, I was like, let me get all my medical. So yeah, Mexico is, just be careful with Mexico if you're a low budget, bougie on a budget. So let me know if you want me to also talk about a little bit about this is something that I've touched on this, but folks don't talk about. All the folks who do encourage like nomadic travel is loneliness. I think that's a really big issue that needs to be talked about more, and mental health. Actually, the moment I said it, I think I said it like 3 weeks ago, then I think either Stephanie Perry and somebody else talked about it at length, because you have to know yourself. I'm really fairly resilient. I am more of an introvert and can find ways, to, keep myself busy, guys. But loneliness is an issue. And what I should have done is through one of the communities, and there are many, even just for me, because I am an introvert, meeting somebody like once a week, have coffee or tea will be enough. And then between talking to like sales clerks and just random conversations. But if you are going to travel solo, I do think it's important to think about, and this was the issue that they talked about that I saw nobody was talking about. When you travel abroad, usually your American therapist cannot therapy you. So I have a therapist in America, and I told her I was going abroad, and this stunned me. She's like, well, I can't. And I'm like, why? And she's like, I'm licensed in this state. Okay. So some of you may not know this. Your therapist in the US is licensed typically just for that state, his or her state of residence. And so because I was going to be out of the state, and I was like, I should have just not told her, but she'd keep noticing different backgrounds. Right? Whoa, now you're in, oh, look at those posters. Oh, it's just a different room. Yeah. Yeah. I know, a completely different scheme. The other, yeah, it's just each room has a different vibe. She's just like, yeah, no, I can't therapy you if you're not in the US. And I think it was, I needed to even be in the state. So if you're, your therapy is important to you, and again, you're going to be, maybe a new language, new food, it's a lot of stress. And like I said, a lot of the influencers don't talk about that directly. They may indirectly say you need community, you need community, you need community, and that is true. But if this is like short term, even, you may not think of it. or a scouting trip, you may not think of it. Okay. So I just want to put that out. Prophet Mother. Yes, I saw that Prophet Mother. Actually, we probably are going to collab. I shouldn't announce it before. We were actually supposed to meet, but we weren't able to. We were supposed to chat um, Friday, actually. Um, yeah, she has a community. I mean, well, Blacksit Global is wonderful. I'm in Black Global. Again, so a lot of there are going to be folks in communities. You can be like, hey, I'm in Bristol, or hey, I'm in Wales. Are you? Oh, okay, I'm 45 minutes away, but I'll come. We'll hang out. So yeah, Blacksit Global. Stephanie Perry has the Exodus ASAP community, which is very specifically like it's not supposed to be long term. It's supposed to be like to get you out of the country. I was in there for 2 months. It was helpful. I think at that time I was either had already left the country or was traveling around. But yeah, just to have community, somebody to have tea or coffee with, go look at a museum or a monument with. So that is something that's important, especially if you are stressed or have mental health issues. Um, or just, and not even anything serious. I'm going to mention here, I won't mention who said to me, but it is someone who is in Portugal. And we were actually on a phone call. So it was like a private conversation. And she said to me, she has seen people reaching out to her who were like, oh my God, I've run out of money and I'm in Portugal. And she's like, you know, she felt burdened by that people maybe with mental health issues were seeing these folks talk about this was the promised land of these countries, right? And then they would get themselves on a plane, but they didn't either have the skills or the wherewithal or the savings, or income, retirement income or pension. And they were literally like stranded and they were reaching out to her. And I was like, really? She goes, yes, more than you would think, more than you would think. And it's interesting because she's slightly shifted what she talks about. And I think, and these people would reach out to her, like, can you help me? What do I do? And, she wasn't comfortable with that. These are people she didn't know who were just like, got to Portugal, as I said in this case, and then like fell apart and were reaching out to her. But yeah, Prophet Mother has a community. She has several different communities. One's a little more general, and then she has, yeah, and I think it's actually enrolling right now. So I did want to get her on here. I tell my clients to connect with community on the ground before the go and yeah, okay, before they go. Hmm. Yeah, I didn't do that. Connect with community on the ground before you go. Yeah. And definitely, I agree. And to join expat groups. Yeah, and funny Facebook because I don't love Facebook. I really don't love Facebook, but it's the best place. There is literally an expat group, and whatever your affinity group. Um, there's different groups for like every area. You can just do general expats, black expats, gay and lesbian expats. Like you can over 60 because some groups are by age. Um, so that's a good thing about Facebook is that you can really find your niche. And, even if you go to like a broader group, you can find the folks that you like. Um, I was actually watching this couple. It was a gay male couple, and they just moved to Albania. And they were talking about, I'm mixing two different things. They're happy in Albania, actually, but it was another guy. He had a problem. He landed in Albania also, and his taxi wasn't going to come for 17 hours because of a mishap. And he literally reached out to the group, to a Facebook group, and he said it was 7 a.m, and literally messages were coming at him like, try this, do this, do this, because he's like, how are we going to get where we need to go? The taxi has the wrong time. It's 17 hours from now. And his wife, interestingly enough, had a different solution. I love it. She went directly out to the taxis to see if she could get like, okay, they're legit because they're already waiting. Can we just get another taxi right there? And that turned out to be the way to do it. Um, But he was amazed that here he is in a brand new country, and he had like so many other expats, other immigrants, like trying to help him. So that's one nice thing about, in terms of being abroad, I think you can get a tighter community because everybody knows it's like we're all kind of in it together. Does that make sense? So yeah, yeah. So that is great advice. Really, really, really great advice. But like I said, those of you like Donna or Faith, if you want to just get encouragement to think about multiple passports, watch Nomad Capitalist. He is hilarious. He's just this kind of really nerdy, slightly effeminate guy, but he grew on me. He grew on me because he was almost obnoxious. He's very like, he's just like, wants to so much appeal to the 1 million net worth that I found him funny, because I found him pretentious, and so that made me laugh. But like I said, he gives, and I think he gave up his American citizenship, which I you know don't recommend. And he's even like, it's kind of a big deal. He literally renounced. So he's like, can't I don't think he's allowed in America. So there's no need to go that far. All right, guys, any questions or anything? Any comments? Any other tips in terms of traveling cheaply? Like I said, I don't know about flights, so I'm not going to try to lie or front about knowing about flights. Like, oh, what I did do is Google flights. I set a alert, and I just obsessively, I'm just like checking, and I'll check like from, oh wait, what if I go to Madrid, and then what if I go to Barcelona? What if I go to Oslo? I'm real flexible about how I get where I'm trying to get. That helps. But Google Flights I found really good. There's another one, but I can't think of the name now, because like that's not my expertise. This was more with the place, how to find a place for cheap, and it really does work. um and if you stay 2 months, I wouldn't book 2 months with one place. Here's why. Last thing, you might, the town I told you I loved, I did, but I was there a month. If I were there 2 months, I would have gone crazy because it was a small town. So I would not book an Airbnb for 2 months, even if you have 2 months, unless you're sure you like that town. And what if there's a problem with the Airbnb? So 1 month is my limit to get that discount, get settled, get comfortable, know the cafes, you know, know where everything is, know the stores. I like that. Right. And also, I think I was supposed to say clearly, when you stay in one place, you can grocery shop. So rather than hopping around every 4 days where you literally can't buy groceries without them spoiling, and right. So the month you really can plan out, buy your groceries, and maybe stop buying your groceries a week out, right? And you really can whittle down. I got really good at that, you guys. I got really good at, like, in the Airbnb, I'd leave like some lentils, like everything else, maybe a little honey or something, right? Because again, you're going to be traveling around, so you don't I mean, at times I would travel with a little bit of food because yeah, I'm eating a lot of plant-based, so if it were beans or lentils or things, obviously I could travel with that within my the local area. So that's also how you save money, is when you stay longer in a place. Not only is the rental going to be cheaper, but you're going to be able to cook more for yourself because you're going to be able to buy more food. You'll even be able to see which supermarkets are cheaper, right? Like when I was in France, I had like four choices. There was an Aldi's, and I went to the Aldi's. The Aldi's wasn't super popular, but it was quite inexpensive. And then the other chains were like French chains that I went to each one to see which was the most reasonable. And I ended up liking Aldi's a lot, and one other one that I can't think of the name of. But yeah, so anyway, these are some tips. All right, give you just a few minutes if there's any questions or comments on bougie on a budget travel. And if you can give me any tips, I'll be really happy with that, especially flight tips. Yeah, especially tips on how to get flights. What else? I honestly, I also just didn't, especially because I was traveling so long and I really was trying to keep to a budget. I didn't want to eat out a lot. So if I had even met up with anyone, I probably would have gone for lunch, to be honest with you. I don't know that I would have done dinners because your idea of what's a budget, honestly, with someone else who's traveling long term might be very different. They may want to go to a really fancy place and have wine and have drinks, and that's, not how you're wanting to do. So, just be aware of that. That's why meeting with anyone, kind of just like a date, I would go for a shorter thing. And then if you're having fun, you can continue. So I would meet somebody for lunch or, you know, maybe a drink, but I'm not really a big drinker. So, and as somebody, I think Rashida Dow said this, something like this. She said, "There's only trouble out in the streets after like 10." I think it wasn't even 10. I think she said 8 o'clock or something. And I agree. In foreign countries, just at my age, unless I'm with friends, I don't know that I want to be wandering around. Um, Again, that'll depend on the country, but yeah, I don't know. I feel like things get expensive at night. All right, guys. So I'm gonna go. I hope that was helpful talking about, how I traveled for 5 months on a budget, on quite a low budget. And the only thing, as I said, I would do different is set up to connect with community. And oh gosh, there was one other thing, connect with community. Oh, that's the main one. That was the main one. Let me see. Okay, comments. Who's still here? Mel, are you still here? Donna, Faith. Who else? Who else said something? No. And I missed one person, and I already said Donna and Greg. Yeah. Any tips for me on and any plans for you to slow travel or to sabbatical? Any of you? I'd be really curious, especially any of the regulars. And what else? So yeah, so January, and that's what I'm seeing. I'm like, oh wait, you're making a pattern. So maybe, yeah, just the winter months. I mean, it's sort of inadvertent. Again, like I said, because my landlord is selling, and that's the timing of when he's selling, is right in the winter. My lease goes through December, you guys. So yeah, January. I'm pretty sure he wouldn't sell it right. I have to talk to him because what if somehow somebody jumps at the house, right? And I have to be out like early January. I doubt that'll happen. Okay. Selling a house takes a while. There's a lot of paperwork. I have to Airbnb in my own town, which would be pretty funny. Um, no says later this year the Schengen area will for entering. Oh, you do try. I find travel with food very tricky. No, here's why. What you can actually, okay, you can take on an airplane in Europe packaged things. I find that very, but if I have, say, a bag of lentils, I mean, people be like, oh, just throw it out. No, why would I throw that out? I'm going someplace else. I'm going to make lentil soup when I arrive. So I'm still not clear if something is open, but like with a clip, it's not clear to me what you really can. The only thing I'm certain you can bring on planes in Europe is like if I bought, like crackers and cheese or something that's clearly packaged and sealed. So what I was traveling about is like when I'm going by train from like location to location, then I definitely have my little bag of like whatever, my spices, my ginger, things like that. But will require fingerprints and photos taken before. That's already happening. No, isn't that because I think, hmm. Yeah, it's all biometric already. It's already biometric. You look, right? Yeah, that's already happened. I definitely know when I landed in the UK, it's the facial record. They're like, look there. And I'm like, ah. And then the passport. they scan the passport. So I'm pretty sure that's already happening. Though maybe I don't remember then getting from, did I do that again, getting into Schengen? I must have. Yeah, they're already doing that. Okay. Yeah, your usual sabbatical in the winter. No, I'm sorry. Do you go to Thailand? I forgot. Are you going to Southeast Asia? I am still, the Netherlands was on my radar, and then all the people on Reddit were like cussing me out, and they were like, "You need to go to like Thailand on your budget." They did. They're like, "That's a Southeast Asia budget that you have. That's not a Netherlands budget." I was like, "You don't know me. You don't know how miracles happen." And as I even said to you guys, in terms of the Netherlands, I had people like offering me reasonable apartments. The problem was they're like, "You can't register it." That's what I needed. In the Netherlands, you need an address. You need an address. Any country. These people are like, "Oh, you can sublet my apartment. It's only this much, but you can't list it as your residence because of like there's this taxes." So I was like, "Oh my God, this is so friggin' complicated." And that's why I didn't end up in the Netherlands on the DAFT visa. If I can figure a way around that, as I mentioned to you guys before. Yeah, exactly. Well, it's Reddit. You know, Reddit, people can be nasty. If you have never been on Reddit, they can be super friendly and super like person to person, but they can also get really nasty. The reason they were no is because there is a housing crisis, and many Americans and other nations where they have a higher earning power, we're talking middle and upper middle class corporate job, they go in and they're like, "Oh, 3,000 a month? That's nothing for that one bedroom. I'll just get it." Right? And so the Dutch people are getting, just like you see around the world, the Dutch, I mean, and this is a whole other, it's not a poor country. They're getting a little bit like, salty about it. Okay, it is Mexico. Okay, okay. Hmm. I don't know why I haven't tried Mexico, because I certainly could I think I qualify for the tourist visa. No, I'm trying to pick your brain. Mexico as a tourist, is there an income requirement? But yeah, very judgy, very judgy. And I'm going to be honest with you guys, and I really am not one to cry racism easily. But some of those Dutch people, I got at least two responses that I would say were racist. And like I said, I think it's like, and there was definitely some anti-American. Okay, we didn't touch on that in this video, but that with our current government, there is a rise in anti-Americanism that that you may have to deal with, um, through no fault of your own. Okay, and that is sad. Oh, you're just cooking. Well, yeah. Did I say infeminine? Oh no, I said slightly. And I'm not, I'm literally just being like a New Yorker. You know how New Yorkers are, like, seriously, before it was politically correct, if we saw somebody, we describe them, we would say their race, which like, I saw this guy that was a black guy, or, oh, he was black, he was cute, I don't know, maybe he's Puerto Rican, he looked like we describe, he's this, he's that, it's just what it is. So I said slightly effeminate. He uses his hands a lot. He's got a very soft face. He does. Right here is just very like, and he even said it, you guys. This is why I'm laughing. One of his videos, it's very rare that a man will say this. He out and out said that he had trouble, I think, with American women. This is what it was. It was like a passport bro. He said something about, "I like a country where the women are impressed if a man is cultured um, and it doesn't have to be," like, he said something that acknowledged that he was being judged by women in America. So I think he was talking about Eastern Europe, and he was like, they like a man who can talk about philosophy and such, and who, isn't, and I was like, "Oh, you poor guy." Like, you're just getting people's whatever. Yeah, he is fabulous. Like I said, I love him. Watch him once, you'll get exactly what I mean. He's just, he comes off as very soft in this way that isn't like, it's not like, oh, he's gay. No, he's just this, sometimes does he wear like, is it a cravat? I don't think he does that anymore. But he's just a hoot. He's just a hoot, like I said, because I see him as pretentious, and pretension to me is like, it's when you're not that thing. So if he truly, like, I'm sure he's rich now because I think he makes money with his, with his company. But if you truly come from money and you this is you, then I'm like, oh yeah, okay, that's how you are. But with him, it feels a little bit artificial. It feels a little bit fake, and that's why I find him so funny. I want to know if others, and listen, I thought I was like one of the few Black people watching him, and then I was on in a live chat, I think maybe Stephanie Perry's channel or something, and somebody else is like, I love Nomad Capitalist. I was like, oh my God, it's not just me. And she said, then that person also said something like, yeah, he's kind of quirky. That's like code, You remind me of some of my aunts. So yeah, it's kind of quirky. Oh, okay, no income requirement. So, I really should look at Mexico. I mean, like I said, I'm the type of Black person, because there is, there are a few there's some MAGA Black people, but the Mexicans I've ever met have been the nicest people. And I'm just talking just in casual, which is where you can tell, just in casual encounters, they're just nice. They're very family oriented. Um, now maybe as some of them stay over here, and you can pick up different attitudes, you know what I mean, from people, and you want to be not at the bottom of the totem pole. That's different. But yeah, Mexico, I just feel like I wouldn't know where to go. Having, of course, I've watched how many videos with everybody in Mexico. But Mexico could work into my plan. Like maybe you guys, Mexico, the thing with Mexico is I know they're not just giving the 90 days anymore automatically. They may be like, oh, you get a month. And so that would mess with my plans, right? I need to know, can I stay for 3 months? Am I staying for 3 months in Mexico? Okay. And then I'm going here. I might house sit, or I'm going against the seasons, you guys. Like I was actually thinking I should go to Italy in the winter to lower costs, which is a whole other thing I could have talked about a little bit, right? Go against the season, go on the shoulder season. Though places like Italy now are so overrun. But truly, yeah, if I went in the winter and I'm going, like I said, to Sardinia, which is an island, I think it's still quite nice. Now, if I think it's nice, there's other people's going to think it's nice. But yeah, maybe I should put Mexico into my mix. No income requirement. I mean, I'm American and I can show a bank account, and yeah. So maybe I could do Mexico, then over to Europe. Ecuador is also coming back. Oh, you're welcome. You're welcome. Ecuador, I don't know if some of you, this is more for those of you who are really into this. Ecuador was having some problems with crime, gang violence. Of course, we always have to ask who buys the drugs, right? So drug violence, drug cartels, right? And a lot of Americans were like fleeing Ecuador, and all the ones who were just watching were like, yeah, we told you not to go to South America. But Ecuador, I feel like it's bouncing back. It keeps coming up in the back of my mind, and two middle-class Americans who had left Ecuador because they were traveling and maybe because of the unrest are now going back. So Ecuador is there. Colombia, girlfriend of mine went to Colombia, loved it, loved it, loved it. She does speak some Spanish. Said the people were warm, the food was fabulous, wasn't super cheap, but I'm like, it couldn't have been as expensive as America. So, and Stephanie Perry just moved to Colombia, to Bogota. Colombia was not on my radar. I keep getting maybe Peru. So I don't know. I'm trying to be open. If the house is going to be sold out from under me and I was going to leave anyway, I will keep you up to date. So we'll definitely mix in our affirmations, our meditation, mix in a little bit of the travel, because I don't want to confuse YouTube, for sure. I don't want to confuse them about what my channel is about. And yeah, that's it. I'm glad I went live. Guys, remember, I don't know how many of you, like Donna, I know might be interested in soulful mindfulness. I would like to run it starting in September, which is tomorrow, right? End of September is probably would be the start. And it is my program where I teach you 4 different types of meditation, how to work with problems that come up in meditation. And it is this cohort, definitely, we're just going to have it as a safe space for Black women, where before I had it open to all women. I want to just see if that makes folks feel more comfortable and feel like, because especially there's so much stress and so much like tension, um, at times I feel like there'll be more of a sense of ease if the community feels like it's limited. So yeah. All right. Well, Mel, thanks for that. Well, aunties always say really what they think. I think that's the thing. Once an older woman, even more, I feel like older men can get cranky, is what I've noticed, because they want things the way they want. And I think it's very hard for a man to lose some of the physical capacity. Do you know what I mean? So I think they get more cranky. Women just get more sassy. Like they're cranky, they'll say what they think, where before they would have, maybe not. They're just going to be like, this. I'm just going to tell you the truth because you need to hear this. Um, and it's fun. We feel liberated. So, oh, one thing. Yeah. So you travel with a few, yeah, gluten-free packed goods. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I feel like, yeah, everything has to be sealed if I'm going to get on the plane. And then I heard like you could say I wanted fresh fruit, for example. This was a real thing. I was like, can I just walk up with an apple? I don't know. And some bananas. Like, what can I? And then I heard you can go on with fresh food, but you can't come off of the plane. And that made sense to me because some of these countries, they don't want you to bring different pests in. So it's like if you eat something on the plane, like fresh, dispose of it, but you can't step off into a country with it. And I was like, it was just confusing to me. No. So I'm still just not really clear on that. So on that note, I think I'm going to go out and walk around barefoot out on my grass. I went to my farmer's market, chatted with some friends, made some plans for tomorrow. Hope you guys have a great, I guess it's Labor Day. I am not a big um, holiday fan, and none of these holidays really have anything to do with me. I think I look better with the light like this than with that bright sunlight I had on. So much love, and I'll talk to you later in the week. Bye.